Hello and welcome to Virtual Concert Halls. Thank you for joining us today. Our channel is dedicated to bringing live performances and events from international artists delivered to audiences around the globe. Hello and welcome. My name is Chris Au and I'll be your host today. I'll be joined by some amazing people later on, but I want to tell you a little bit about our special program today. Our special program today presents part 2 of our story, and our story of the Carnegie Hall auditions and the Laureate Gala and everything that happened before, during, and after. It's a very special show we have for you as we present the interviews as well as performances that the Laureate of the Carnegie Hall Gala performed. Now, what's really important, especially tonight, is that we get special interviews presented by our esteemed partner and collaborator, Steve Robinson. Steve Robinson, who is really well known as a radio broadcaster and a philanthropist and someone who really supports musicians and has broadcasts from all over the world. He took the time to go to Manhattan Club and interview each and every one of the performers for the Laureate Gala and talk to them about the Carnegie Hall experience, arriving in New York for the first time. A lot of them only came to the US for the first time, their impressions of the city, what they're about to expect, and the amazing performance that they will be about to perform. So what's really, really beautiful about this experience is you get to witness the performances of these contestants and these performers and these winners, and also you get a little sneak peek of who they are as a person and their experience and their process behind being able to perform for the first time, a lot of them, at Carnegie Hall. We're really pleased to be able to host this, and we hope you join us, and we hope that you continue to support us. Feel free to leave a comment below, give us some love, and let your family and friends know about our very special event. Now, we are supported very heavily by amazing organizations. We rely on these organizations not only for their support and their amazing promotional support, but also for making this all happen. We have to thank Sound Espressivo competition for making these broadcasts and these competitions happen for amazing musicians who can play exceptionally well. We have to thank Progressive Musicians. Progressive Musicians is an incredible organization who aims to put musicians, especially really good ones, onto the international stage and in prestigious venues like Carnegie Hall. We also have to thank Virtual Concert Halls, who is an internet TV broadcaster and providing artists with a virtual stage to perform anywhere. If you're interested in Virtual Concert Halls hosting your live events and your concerts, feel free to check us out at www.virtualconcerthalls.com, and we can do anything for you. And this is an example of what we're able to host and our capabilities. We also have to thank the New York Chamber Players, conducted by Maestro Giacomo Franci, who is an amazing conductor who rehearsed with each and every one of the soloists. And the New York Chamber Players are incredibly professional, and they accompanied all the soloists who performed at Carnegie Hall that evening. This is a very special event, and we're really proud to bring you part 2 of our story, where all this began, and to present with you these performances, and hope you really enjoy what we have to offer. We also have to thank very much our judges. So the process behind all these auditions is that there are preliminary rounds where students can submit a recording, submit something, an application, and then each round is actually live. They get to play live for judges, and these judges will listen to their entire performances, and usually there aren't any time limit, so they can play for as long as they want. And then the judges give live feedback. Live feedback is a very special and exceptional part of the Sound Espressivo competition experience, where judges are able to give comments and advice, usually sometimes it's a mini masterclass even, to the contestants. So what happens is they perform, and then they get live feedback. They get to have some closure about their performance and how the judges saw them. So first of all, we have to introduce Benjamin Hansen. Benjamin Hansen As a musician who is a founder and artistic director of the Helios Ensemble and an award-winning SATB semi-professional choral group in Tucson, Arizona. He is the interim co-director of the Tucson Symphony Orchestra, chorus director of music at Catalina United Methodist Church. He has conducted works such as the Bach's Mass in B minor, Handel's Messiah, just to name a few. He's an incredible musician, and we're really happy to have Benjamin Hansen as one of our judges. We also had Emil Shunovsky, who is an incredible friend of the Sound Espressivo and Virtual Concert Halls, and is an amazing violinist. He has won incredible awards, especially first prize at the 11th International Churchive Violin Competition in Naples, first prize in the Young Artist Competition of the National Federation of Music Clubs, and most recently, first prize from the Valsesia Musica International Violin Competition in Milan. We also have Pierre Baudry, who is native of Quebec and performs around the world. His extensive career has taken him to Europe, North America, China, and Southeast Asia, and he is lauded as an incredible musician who is a laureate of the International Music Competition of Finale Lugiere in Italy, and he has received many grants from the Quebec Arts Council and is a DAAD alumni. We also had Elizabeth Mann, who is a long-term friend of the Sound Espressivo competition. She is a chamber, solo, and orchestral musician. She's principal flute with the Grammy Award-winning Orpheus Chamber Orchestra, as well as a member of the Pulitzer Award-winning ensembles, adjudicator, guest principal flutist with New York Phil and Boston Symphony. She has a lot of accolades as well. And last but not last at all, we have also Daniel Ihaj, who earned a Master of Music degree in Performance and Literature from the Eastman School of Music, along with a prestigious Performer Certificate. And he was a member of the voice faculty at the State University of New York at Fredonia, and has achieved the full rank of full professor. We also have James Welch, who is the brains and the heart behind progressive musicians. He is known as the piano soloist, chamber musician, conductor, and instructor of piano at SUNY Fredonia. He was a prize winner in many competitions, including the John Pierce Langs and Bradshaw and Bueno International Competition, and is a really passionate judge who is a wonderful supporter and friend of ours. We also have to thank not the judges now, but also supporters such as Bill Siegfried and Digital Island Studios, in particular, Will Salvin and Max Bolton. So we are really privileged to have these people. And now Dr. Anna is going to give even more shout outs to these people.
Absolutely. We are extremely grateful to everyone who joined our hands together with us in producing these events at Carnegie Recital Hall, and special shout outs to Adler Ox Music Library, to World Piano Teachers Association for their incredible support in spreading the word and inviting musicians to participate in these events. We are very grateful to Piano Rehearsal Studios for providing the facilities for rehearsals and for practicing for musicians who came to New York to perform. We are very grateful to John Kaboff Cello School for supporting our programs and bringing incredible musicians on stage. And thank you very much for New Media Productions and the director of it, Steve Robinson, for participating in our programs and taking incredible interviews with musicians, which you will see shortly. Thank you all very much. And we also want to give very special shout outs to iClassical Academy for providing incredible prizes and recognition awards to the finalists, to participants, and of course to the laureates of those auditions. iClassical Academy is a Swiss-based educational company which provides the highest caliber materials and educational opportunities for musicians who are studying music, especially for very serious musicians, and they're very well known and very well regarded for the incredible quality of their courses and other materials which they provide. And they supported nearly $6,000 worth of awards which they have given to our laureates, winners, and participants. Thank you very much, everyone who helped us make this an incredible event and an enriching experience to our musicians.
Well, we can't
No matter where you are or who you are, music connects us all. We started with a dream, but now we are paving the future. Welcome to the Sound Espressivo Global Competition. Fully virtual, yet bringing musicians closer together than ever before, now on a global scale. True live, inclusivity, diversity, connection, community, an extraordinary array of judges. Get noticed by companies all over the world. Prizes, scholarships, performance opportunities. Apply to be a part of the most exciting congregation of artists like nothing you've ever seen before. We guarantee quality and leave no musician behind. We can't wait to hear you on the virtual stage.
Well, I'm going to bring you back, Dr. Anna, because we didn't get to see your face, and we just heard you talk, and we want to give you a special shout out as well, because you were an integral part in making all of this happen. You are not only the brains and the heart behind it, but every effort, blood, sweat, and tears that went into this, you were behind it. So we're really privileged and proud to have you as not only the co-founder of Virtual Concert Halls and Sound Espressivo competition, but being such an amazing supporter of musicians around the world who came to perform in Carnegie Hall.
Thank you, Chris, very much. And thank you, everyone, for your support and for joining our endeavors and our initiatives. Something like this can only be done through an incredible vibe and energy of a large community. And our community is very large and it's growing, and I'm so proud to see so many more musicians, teachers, performers, and other supporters, corporations, companies, producers joining us, joining this movement, this momentum of building bridges, building connections, and doing things together. I love that. Thank you all very much for your love. And Chris, you're an incredible host. Thank you for hosting me today.
No, my pleasure. Look, and before I let you go, and before I introduce Steve Robinson, I'm going to ask you one quick question, which I think is very important. Why Carnegie Hall? What was it like to be back? How did it feel to be in New York and surrounded by musicians and top-level artists? How did it feel to be back in Carnegie?
It felt fabulous.
Nice.
It was incredible. I love that stage. That's one of my most favorite concert halls in the entire world. I love its size. I love its acoustics, the vibe, even the smell of the old wood. And even though this time I wasn't playing that fantastic piano on stage, I still felt like we're back at home. And I love that we can have in-person concerts now in our favorite, most beloved venues, and combine it with connecting with people all over the world through the virtual. And one more thing, I want to bring in James Welch for a little quick question. Without James and his incredible energy, this would not have happened. He was the one who arranged all of that around the Carnegie Hall, and it was just enormous. James, thank you for your support and for your incredible energy and your optimistic spirit and your problem-solving skills.
Oh, you're very welcome. I mean, I can say the same to you. I mean, it's just, I mean, this wouldn't have happened the way that it did without all of your creativity, your support, and all of your skills. So it's been a real pleasure co-producing this with you and your team.
Thank you, James. That's been quite an honor and quite a journey.
And James, before I want to ask you a quick question too. I want you to tell us about your Carnegie Hall experience, and because you got to perform and play on stage as well. What was it like to be back and to have that experience to be on stage and to play and be in that special space?
Well, you know, I mean, looking back, I mean, it was great in the moment. Just producing and playing at the same time. It just kind of like went real fast. I mean, it took me a little while after for it to sink in, and like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
I'm back here. I'm playing in Recital Hall again.
Yeah,
yes.
I'm playing with these amazing violinists that are. I mean, it was just really the experience of a lifetime to be up there with these two kids. I mean, that were just.
And one of them came from all the way from India.
Yeah, Antia Dias was from India. And, the quick backstory about her, I mean, she, 2 years ago, more than that, was in our first competition. Right as COVID hit, she applied, and she won as a silver medalist winner. And then we got delayed, and then she got delayed because of, COVID restrictions and all that. And we were finally able to bring her in, 2.5 years later, and like 5 times the violinist that she was back then, which was still amazing back then. But I mean, it was such a journey for her to be there, and it was a pleasure to finally
and it's all thanks
everyone.
to your work, James and Anna, putting all this together, and believing in the fact that these events are important for musicians, and never stopping to be in belief of that, because we need to provide opportunities for performers to perform on stage, and what better stage than Carnegie Hall. So we're really grateful to you, and let's move on with the show, shall we?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce Steve Robinson, and then we're going to have some performances and other things going on, so you get to hear music, right? Enough of us talking. This is shows about music and interviews and the musicians themselves. Steve Robinson, who you're going to see a lot of, is our primary and amazing interviewer who has collaborated with us for as long as Sound Espressivo has been around. He is a veteran to radio. He is a 50-year radio veteran who has produced programs from classical music documentaries to public affair programs, and has directed over 100 on-air pledge drives. I worked with him recently on the UNICEF pledge drive, and he is such a beast with putting all these things together and making sure that not only are the arts, but the government and everybody, important main role players within the government and politics, are participating in pledge drives and art. He co-founded the AIR, which is the Association of Independents in Radio, a service organization to assist independent radio producers in the US. He has produced shows that have been broadcasted all over the world, including Salzburg, Austria, Durban, South Africa, Quebec City in Canada, Jerusalem, Israel, and has produced numerous live broadcasts from Chicago and throughout the US. In 2015, he executed a cross-cultural broadcast relationship between America and China by exporting to China for the first time broadcasting concerts by the New York Philharmonic, LA Philharmonic, San Francisco Symphony, Dallas Symphony, Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center, and Carnegie Hall. And projects like this is what's going to create synergy between cultures, as well as, hopefully, world peace. He has arranged for concerts from the Shanghai Spring International Music Festival and the Shanghai Symphony Orchestra to be exported to the West with broadcasts in the US, Canada, and Europe. So it's a cross-cultural synergy that's not just one end, it's two ends. There's a two-way highway between countries as big as America and China, and with culture, arts, music, and great music as the medium. We're really, really happy and proud to have Steve Robinson support us so greatly. So we're really pleased. He took the whole day on the Carnegie Hall concert Laureate Gala day to interview every single musician. You're going to hear performances as well as interviews in person. And so without further ado, we're going to start with our first clip, right? And our first of part 2, obviously, is Relitsa Sholokova, who is a violist. She plays A Prayer for Peace in 2022 by Evelyn Strobach. And here is an interview between her and Steve Robinson. Enjoy.
Relitsa, welcome to Carnegie Hall and the Well Recital Hall. You'll be performing this evening.
Yes.
But before we talk about the piece you'll be playing, which is quite special, tell us a little bit about your career. You're a violist, and you are from?
Originally from Bulgaria, but I live in Canada for a very long time, actually longer than I lived in Bulgaria. And I, in fact, play both violin and viola because not last week, but 8 days ago, I was performing Vivaldi Four Seasons in Ottawa with Orchestra in local chamber orchestra in the city.
Well, that's written for violin, not viola.
Exactly.
So you play both.
I play
Yeah,
both.
yeah. And did you begin playing when you before you left Bulgaria?
Oh yeah, I was 6 and I was born in a communist country. So at that time, we had specialized schools where if you have talent and they see that you're gifted, they put you in such a school. So I was there from really early age of 6, and I graduated there. Then I went to study in Vienna, and then I went in Canada because I had a scholarship of $10,000. That was 25 years ago.
And where in Vienna did you study?
In Hochschule für Musik und Darstellende Kunst at that time. Now it's the university. It was actually the school in Austria to study.
So you were studying violin and viola?
Yes, yeah. Actually, it was mandatory to play viola for a year, and this is how I learned to play viola there. And it's a beautiful instrument, like with a great sonority. And occasionally, I perform pieces on the viola, and quite often Canadian composers write pieces for me to perform.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
That's a great honor to have a composer write a piece for you.
Yeah, they're very excited that I can play double stops.
I'll tell you about a piece you probably don't know, written by a person I used to know. His name is William Schumann. Do you know the name?
I know the name.
Do you know his viola concerto?
No, I don't.
It's one of his best pieces, in my opinion.
Oh, okay.
And it's called The Concerto on Old English Rounds for Viola, Orchestra, and wait for it, Women's Chorus.
Oh, wow.
So you must find that piece.
I will.
Because he wrote it, it was commissioned by William McGuinness, if you know the name.
Yeah, I know the name as well.
And I did a portrait of Schumann, and I asked McGuinness about it, and he said, Schumann said, he came up and played for me. Of course, Schumann knew the viola. And a couple of months later, he called him up. He said, I have good news and bad news. I'm going to write the piece, but it's going to use a women's chorus.
Right.
So Schumann's great pal, Lenny Bernstein, recorded it, and then it disappeared. So I expect you to track it down.
I will. I was actually looking for a virtuoso viola piece, so probably this is quite a virtuoso one. And the only one that I found was by Viltan, a caprice that's dedicated to Paganini. So, I would definitely.
And it's not so difficult to find a women's chorus, is it?
I don't know. In Canada, everything is
good.
Like according to a budget, if the budget allows.
So then you moved to Canada, and we talked about the notes here talk about one CD, but apparently you've made quite a few.
Yeah, I have 5 CDs, and actually I'm working currently on one, which is with violin concertos by Canadian women composers. I unfortunately, because of COVID, it was a little bit interrupted. I did perform the first violin concerto composed by a Canadian composer in a concert tour I went to in Chile 3 years ago. And this is one of the pieces that I'm going to be recording. And the other one is going to be a piece by Estonian Canadian composer. She actually is going to be writing the first violin concerto by Estonian composer for me. And so she already started, so I hope she's going to finish soon.
That's exciting. So what label are these CDs on?
Oh, they are going to be under Center Disc, which is a Canadian Music Center label. And so hopefully next year I'm going to be able to record them, and they're going to be released.
Terrific. And on your next CD, you'll play the Schumann Concerto. No, but take a look at it, really.
I will.
Now, tell us a bit about the piece you're playing tonight, because was this piece also written for you? Tell us a bit about the composer.
Yes, Evelyn Stroba, he's like a really good friend, and I performed her pieces in the past. She wrote a piece for solo violin for me that I premiered at the Ottawa Chamber Festival maybe 10 years ago. She also wrote a piece for my CD Aboriginal Inspirations, which is the one that was recorded with Ron Korp, who is once again nominated for a Grammy. And he was playing native flutes in that one. And this piece she wrote for solo viola. It has 3 movements. I'm going to be playing 2 of them. The first is the first and the second, and it is the piece is dedicated to, actually not really dedicated, but it's her desire to see peace in Israel. because it's a country that has been going through war and all kinds of turbulence over the, I don't know.
It's about peace in Israel, you said.
Yeah.
The feeling of the peace.
Yes, exactly. That everything.
Is she Israeli?
No, but she has the heritage, like the Jewish heritage.
And again, her name is Evelyn Strubach.
Her actually heritage is Dutch.
Dutch.
To be more precise.
Yeah, and tell us a bit about the piece and the sound of it. Is it what style would you say? Is it tonal or?
Oh yeah, it is definitely tonal. It is like the first movement is called the Desire of the Heart. So it's you can feel the pain and stuff how you would like to not see any suffering or anything like that, just everything to be peaceful, and it's really very calm piece. But there is a little bit of drama, of course, and which comes throughout the first movement and the second as well, actually the most. So the second movement is called an argument, and it's the argument comes exactly in the climax of, like, in the middle of the second movement. I hope that the audience is going to feel all those emotions that she puts into the piece, and for my performance, and like the piece. It's I have to say beautiful if it's played really well.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Oh, thank you.
And hearing your performance, and thank you for coming by. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, likewise.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, we're really pleased to be able to have Relitska Shulakova perform in Carnegie Hall for us this piece by A Prayer for Peace, written in 2022 by Evelyn Strobach. And I think it's a testament to our musicians who aren't only playing pieces written in the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th century, but also in our 21st century. And it's really important that these pieces are heard, especially in a big stage like Carnegie Hall, where music ought to be heard around the world, obviously, but in a special place like that, I think it holds a very beautiful place in people's hearts to be able to hear new music, newly composed music that really touches the heart. Next up, we have an incredible ensemble, a cello ensemble, to say the least. They're called the Bows Lightly, and they're part of the Karboff Cello and it's headed by Alex Kirby and John Karboff. We're going to hear their interview with Steve Robinson right now. And please enjoy this interview.
And we're very pleased to have with us representatives of the Bow Lightleys. Now, that's a cello ensemble which was founded in 1992 by John Karboff. And John is here with us. John, you are a distinguished cellist in your own right. You studied with Janos Starker at India University. Tell us a little bit about your early career and how you started on cello and wound up studying with one of the greatest cellists of all time.
I started on cello because I was inspired by an orchestra concert that I went to hear Leonard Rose play Dvorak Concerto, and thus began my cello playing career at the age of 10. And then I went to Indiana University, and shortly after graduating, I ended up in Washington, D.C., and have been teaching cello there for 27 years. And to me, one of the most important things is chamber music or cello ensemble music. And the greatest joy is to play with others and to teach kids to play with others, because the most important thing for these students is to have a hobby for the rest of their life.
Let's rewind a little bit to the Leonard Rose concert. You hear him do the Dvorak. You're only 10. And something struck you. I know that was a few years ago, so maybe the memory isn't totally clear, but what was it?
The soul of his cello just sort of exuded and went into the audience, and it sort of engulfed you and gave you shivers, or gave me shivers. And believe it or not, I was fired from my piano teacher shortly before that, and I wanted to try something new.
So you were studying piano and said, nope,
Yep.
I think this instrument's it spoke to you.
It was much more me, and from the moment I took my first cello lesson, I never looked back.
I see. And what was it like working with Starker? How many years were you with Janos Starker?
I was with Mr. Starker for 3 years. It was, for me, the greatest experience of my life. He was tough, he was critical, but he was fair and kind and very direct, and always made you think harder and more outside of the box than what you were doing.
And you've obviously given recitals, you've, I'm sure, played concertos yourself with various orchestras, but you decided in 1995, when you were in your 20s, to form this ensemble called Bo Lightly's. What was the inspiration for that?
When I moved to Washington, D.C., I started teaching pre-college level, and I've always loved playing cello duets, and I wanted to get my students to enjoy this as early as possible. And even when I would have a little 6-year-old playing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, I'd go to school with them, I'd play duets, and one by one, the ensemble started to grow. And by 2000, I had a huge studio of 35 students, 8 of whom were lucky enough to play with Yo-Yo Ma at the World Cello Congress. And to me, it's the most important thing.
So the Bo Lightly's are a cello ensemble, and they're playing as 8, is it 8 cellists in the ensemble, or does it vary?
Tonight, it varies. It depends on who's in the studio at any given time. Tonight, there will be 13 cellists plus myself, and they range in age from 8th grade to 11th grade, and I have 2 wonderful, very young colleagues who are joining us, who are in their very beginning of their teaching career. And I've had as many as 16 or 17 kids. About a decade ago, we performed at the French Embassy in Washington, D.C. on one of their concerts, and there's nothing better than hearing the sound of a dozen plus cellos come together.
Now, one of your students is Alexander Kirby. Alexander, you're a junior?
Yes.
In Maryland?
McLean, Virginia, just outside of D.C.
I see. And when did you pick up the cello?
When I was 3.5 years old.
Wait a minute. You can't play the cello when you're 3.5.
It was the size of a violin, but yes.
But it actually
Yes.
played it as a cello. I don't think I've ever heard of that. And so what, why the cello? Instead of it was the size of the violin, why the cello? What inspired you? Do you remember that far back?
My mom played the cello. She picked it up as an adult amateur. And music, it's kind of a family thing. My dad plays the guitar. They both wanted me to start something, but my mom kind of chose it for me. I was too young to actually know which instrument to pick, so she just picked it for me.
I see. But then the cello started getting bigger and bigger because
Yes.
you kept growing up and you kept with it, and you kept studying. And when did you get your first teacher? Did your parents teach you at first?
No, I started with Mr. Kaboff 13 years ago. Yes, that was my very first lesson.
Wow. How was he as a teacher? Was he any good?
He's decent.
Well, you heard that he was very inspired by Starker, and I'm sure you've heard Starker's recordings.
Yes.
But he's obviously quite inspirational to you. What about him has kept you inspired and involved?
Well, when I was younger, I wasn't as involved, but as I've matured, I never really understood when I was younger. As I've matured, I've definitely grown for the love of the cello, and Mr. Kaboff has definitely helped me with that. He was a little bit rough on me in the beginning, but it definitely shaped me a little bit, and it did help me grow to love it. It's one of my favorite things right now.
Yeah. Rough on you in what sense? I mean, what was he urging you to do the most?
Practice. That's the big thing with little kids. We just want to play. But yeah, he says it's also you need the parents to be involved too, because without the parents, the kids don't practice, and then we don't play good, and we won't improve.
Right. And so you joined the Bo Lightly's, and you've performed with them. What was it like performing? Was it with Yo-Yo Ma, or was Yo-Yo the coach?
That was way before me, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Bo Lightly's played with Yo-Yo in 2000, so that's 22 years ago.
I see. Yeah.
Those kids, some of them are professionals today, actually, and some of them have now become parents themselves and are doing music with their own children.
Uh-huh. And what was the experience with Yo-Yo like? Because Yo-Yo is one of the most fantastic people in the world, so I'm sure he would inspire anybody to do anything.
He is
What was that like?
absolutely one of, if not the most fantastic persons in the world. To me, as a younger teacher, because I was 29 at the time, it was inspirational to say, this is exactly what I'm doing with my life and this is the right thing. And hearing him talk to the kids, being so kind and gentle, and teaching them to listen to each other. As I was conducting the cello ensemble, he kind of pulled me away during our rehearsal and made the kids listen to themselves. And at the time, the kids were between 8 years old and 12 years old. So it was quite interesting to watch really young kids now do this without a conductor.
How did you feel when he pulled you away? Was he teaching you something as well?
I think so. And probably to stand back and let the group kind of guide itself, whether it be musically or rhythmically. And it was something that I've actually taken with me since then. So sometimes when we rehearse, I will say, keep playing, and then I stop playing, and I sort of walk to the end of my room and listen to the kids, and I see how they're interacting with each other, whether it's looking at each other's bows to figure out the timing and coordination of rhythmical things, or musically, if they're breathing with each other. Have they done the rallentando or the ritardando, the slowing down of a phrase, together the way I was teaching them, and are they watching the other players to see if someone has the more melodic part, are the accompanying parts listening to the solo parts, and are the solo parts listening to the rhythmical sections, thinking I've got to fit with their pulse. So it was quite a good pedagogical experience for me to learn how to, once I've given them their tools, have them implement it themselves.
Uh-huh. Have you ever had a performance without a conductor in front of an audience?
They've performed without me in the center, and so tonight I'm going to be playing as part of the ensemble. I will conduct a little bit at the very beginning of each piece, but once we set it going, it's conductorless.
I see.
Like chamber music, for example.
Now, what about the repertoire? What is there much repertoire written for mass cellos?
There is an incalculable amount of repertoire for mass cello ensemble. There are many amazing cellists who have orchestrated pieces like Danse Macabre, which we'll be playing tonight. And it's very readily online. You can purchase it, you can get it as free scores, and the music is amazing.
So the Danse Macabre you're playing tonight by
Camille Saint-Saëns.
So it was arranged for cello ensemble.
It's arranged for 10 cellos, and so there'll be 14 of us playing, including myself. And so a couple of the parts will be doubled, of course, but there's basically for cello dectet. And the arrangement is amazing. And if someone is familiar with the orchestral version, they'll sort of hear, oh, here's the harpist playing at the beginning. Here's where the violin plays their solo towards the end. And various cellists will be taking those roles.
And of course, you've played the Bacchianas Brasileiras. Is it number 5 for cello and soprano?
I have played that, yes, and the number 1 is also amazing too.
Yeah, one of my favorite pieces. How many cellos is that scored for? I forgot.
I believe it's also 10.
Yeah. But there's also, you say, a great deal of music written for, original music written for 10 cellos or groups of cellos.
I think, so the Bacchianas, of course, is written for cello.
Right.
Most of the mass cello ensemble music is transcribed from something else, whether it be Bach Chaconne, for example, or Pictures at an Exhibition. I have an ensemble for that. The Barber of Seville Overture I've played with my students. Tonight, also, we're playing themes from Schindler's List, which is written for cello quintet.
Oh.
And so there'll be 2 to 3 per part, and it's quite amazing. And if you listen to the original soundtrack with Itzhak Perlman, it's beautiful on violin, and it has its own color there. And then when you have 14 cellos come together, it's a completely different color trying to send the same message. Mm-hmm. So it's important for us as musicians to learn how to speak.
Okay, I'll leave you with this challenge. Now, I don't know what your budget is or where you get your funding, but what you should do, and I'm sure it's occurred to you, is commission. You should commission. Have you commissioned any pieces?
I have not yet, but one of my students who's in high school is dabbling with composition, and later this year we will be playing one of her pieces in Knoxville, Tennessee, at the Tennessee Cello Workshop at the University of Tennessee.
So go in and find a patron, have them give you 20,000, let's say, and you can, for 20,000, you could commission any composer in the land who'd be thrilled.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. I can recommend my friend Alex Shapiro, wonderful composer. She's terrific. Would jump at the chance, as would anybody. Jennifer Higdon, you can't name anybody who wouldn't jump at the chance. And it's not, unfortunately for them, it's not that expensive.
Right. No, that would be amazing. That would absolutely be amazing.
That's your assignment, and I will expect a report in the next few months to see
With
how
pleasure.
you did. Okay. Alexander and John, thank you very much, and good luck tonight. I love the cello. I told you I dabbled with it with Stephen Gabriel when I was in college, but I wanted to learn how to do it just because I love it so much. I didn't get very far, but I love it, and I'm looking forward to tonight very much. So good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Go.
Welcome back, everybody. If you're just joining us now, we are presenting part 2 of our Carnegie Hall Laureates Gala special. This is part 2 of interviews with musicians conducted by the amazing Steve Robinson, who you just heard from. And also we have clips from the rehearsals, clips from performances that we would love to present to you. This is an incredible experience for you to see not only the stories and the background behind these musicians. We just heard from John Karboff, and his inspiration was listening to Leonard Rose play the Dvorak Concerto, and then since then he has worked with Janos Starker and also performed with Yo-Yo Ma, and all of these kind of experiences add up. And so the next generation of musicians get influenced and inspired by these sort of experiences. And speaking of inspiration, performing in Carnegie Hall itself is an incredible inspiration and source of motivation for musicians to do so. And we just heard Alex Kirby play with the New York Chamber Players, conducted by Maestro Giacomo Franci, and there you see an incredible joy in the music playing because they know that there's something beautiful to look forward to. And we also have Piano to thank you, to thank for hosting the orchestral rehearsals that we could live stream for everybody to enjoy. So there's a lot of work and a lot of amazing people behind the scenes who have made this happen, especially the organization Sound Espressivo Competition, especially virtual concert halls, as well as progressive musicians, and to say none the least, the amazing musicians of the New York Chamber Players and Maestro Giacomo Franci. And with that, we're going to move on to the next little clip that we have, speaking of Giacomo Franci, who we're going to listen to. There'll be an interview, and there will also be a rehearsal clip. So please enjoy Giacomo Franci with the New York Chamber Players, an interview as well as a rehearsal clip.
We're delighted to have Giacomo, the conductor of the New York Chamber Players Orchestra, and a board member, Alex, joining us for this last interview we're doing before the concert begins at 8 o'clock tonight. Yeah. Giacomo, you have founded the group in what year here in New York?
We started the group first concert in 2004. Actually, we had the first concert right in front of Carnegie Hall. There was a concert hall there called Carnegie Hall, which was belonging to Columbia Artist Management. Then, for several reasons, it didn't exist anymore. And then I got into also the logistics of founding the orchestra and organizing also the non-profit status by the year of 2008.
I see. You yourself are a pianist, and in talking with you before this interview, you've made some extraordinary recordings of the complete piano music of Copland, Stravinsky, and now you're working on the 32 sonatas of Beethoven. Yeah. And as part of your career as a pianist, what prompted you to found a chamber orchestra here in New York?
What happened is I studied also conducting after the studying of piano, of course, and there was this title I had there, but so conductor is a conductor if he has an orchestra. So I founded the orchestra for that reason, and that also fostered also my career as concert pianist. Because then from then on I got more invitation as soloist with orchestra and so forth and so on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, how did you tonight? You're performing. Apparently, you're accompanying 11 of the young soloists tonight, but also performing the Bach.
The Bach Piano Concerto number 5 in F minor.
And you're doing all three movements.
Right.
Yeah. And you'll be playing from the keyboard.
Yes, I will be conducting and playing. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I've had an opportunity to interview all of the performers today. We started at 1, so we've been doing a lot of interviews. And I've been involved quite a bit in presenting young musicians, and nothing that I've done actually gives me more satisfaction than putting together programs that involve these young kids. Because when I see and hear a 6-year-old or a 10-year-old, whatever it is, performing not only technically, I mean, that's magic in itself, but so artistically, it never fails to move me very deeply, and I'm wondering what your reaction is to this.
Well, one of the main point of the mission statement of the orchestra is fostering the career of very young, very talented musicians. So we have been doing 12 edition of a concerto competition with the New York Chamber Players. So I've been in touch with these phenomenal kids for quite a few years, and it's always incredible the way their talent is, and identifying with what I'm agreeing with what you
Yeah.
say. Yes, yeah.
It actually brings tears to my eyes, tell you the truth, when I see particularly a younger person performing, but sensitively,
Right.
not just
Yeah,
getting the notes.
also with expression,
Yeah,
and,
expression,
and
beautiful.
musicality. Yeah.
Now, Alex, you're a member of the board.
Yeah.
What motivates you to help them?
What you just said, the value of helping young musicians. So I have an interesting connection with Giacomo. I'm decided to play piano 5 years ago, so I'm not a young player, but and I discover him as a teacher. So he's my teacher, and I fall in love with the idea of learning piano. And then he introduced me to the orchestra, and I could help a little bit financially, and so Giacomo offered me very nicely to become a board member, and I really like the process. I like the idea of creating this orchestra, of helping young players and demonstrate and giving them access to an orchestra, which is pretty difficult.
Yeah. So I've been involved with nonprofits my whole life. Written more grants than and been refused more grants. I could paper my walls, as they say, with the rejection letters. So it's a very difficult process, but also quite rewarding, isn't it? Now you started piano 5 years ago from scratch.
From scratch. I used to play violin when I was a kid, and I stopped when I was 12 years old.
I want to open a parenthesis here. So I've been doing professional master classes with high-level pianists, of course, but a good core of my activity as a teacher is teaching piano as to divulgate classical music to people that are interested in, they do other jobs, but then they get involved in classical music, and you'll be surprised. Beside, of course, having them becoming important development for my orchestra, also they start going to concert halls because there is more need of public than of musicians. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's how we develop an audience, which is for this music.
Yes.
Classical music is always dying. Everybody says it never does.
I don't think so.
It never does. No, it always is there. And I'm finding that younger people are coming up interested, and you can go to a concert these days, particularly opera, and see a much younger audience, and it's very gratifying. Where in New York do you perform?
Well,
the orchestra.
The orchestra usually we are at the Menna Center, and that's our home. Say that we regularly perform there, and then on occasion we go other concert hall. But in this last few years we have been there. There is a concert hall within the Menna Center called Carnegie Hall, and we perform there.
How many concerts do you give a year?
It's between 3 and 5, something like that. Yeah.
What kind of repertoire do you?
It's usually traditional repertoire. Sometimes we do also contemporary music. The last concert we did was about contemporary music. Yeah.
Well, I am looking forward tremendously to tonight, because having interviewed most of the performers, I'm very eager to hear them. I heard a little bit from the tape last night from the interview, but I'm very anxious to hear your Bach as well. It's one of my favorite concertos, actually, of the set. Okay. Alex, thank you, and thanks for your support of the orchestra. It's people like you that make these ensembles
very
what they
rewarding.
are. Thank you, Giacomo.
Welcome back. You just heard a clip of Giacomo Franci with the New York Chamber Players performing a Bach piano concerto, and what a pleasure to hear that, as well as his interview alongside a board member named Alex, who is a big supporter of the New York Chamber Players, being interviewed by none other than the legendary radio broadcaster Steve Robinson. We have Piano Piano to thank. That was the venue in which you just saw the rehearsal at. We also have the Manhattan Club and, of course, Steve Robinson and all his amazing technical cameramen to capture these interviews for us to play for you. The amazing thing about virtual concert halls and sound Espressivo competitions, as well as progressive musicians putting all stuff, is that we get a lot of footage to use and to show you behind the scenes, as well as a little snippet of what their lives are like. And I really loved how during these interviews that Steve Robinson had with the musicians, you get to hear about the value in helping musicians, young musicians, have a stage to perform in, as well as their views on classical music. Is it dying? Is it not? There are so many people who go to operas and different concerts and smaller venues, bigger venues. And I think this is really exciting for a lot of musicians overseas. And if you're watching, you get a sense that no, classical music isn't dying. There's a lot of future left, and the future is in the young musicians. So investments need to be made in the younger generation, the next generation, so that this music will be continued to be played, especially an incredible composer, Bach. And with that, it gives us a lot of hope. So I hope you're inspired. If you're catching us now, we are on part 2 of our story, the Carnegie Hall Gala for all the laureates of the auditions. We want to tell you a little bit that there's going to be a part 2 also of the Carnegie Hall Laureate Gala. It's going to be happening in June 2023, and we can't wait for you to go watch the second part. There will be different musicians, all prize winners, all excellent musicians, and they are just so excited to be able to perform in a stage as amazing as Carnegie Hall. And speaking of people performing in Carnegie Hall, we have next Lucia Tang. Lucia Tang is a pianist, a wonderful pianist, performing the Concerto in D Major by Haydn, and she performed that in Carnegie Hall, and I'm sure she's going to be putting that on her resume for the rest of her life, no matter whether she does music or not. And we're going to hear a little snippet of her meeting with the conductor, Giacomo Franci. We're going to have her interview with Steve Robinson, and then some music for you to enjoy. So with that, take it away.
Hi, Lucia. So if you just start from the beginning, see what kind of tempo you do. Okay, good. Yeah. Do you know, for example, before that last scale that you play, you know that there is an orchestra part there, so you have to wait a moment, right? Yeah. Okay. Another thing is, when you play the 16 notes, especially this from measure 39, there are a series of 16 notes. It's better if you keep the tempi a little bit more sit, so you are able to play clear. Can you just start again, please? From the very beginning. Then keep on going. Yeah.
Carnegie Hall in the Wild Recital Hall. It's beautiful to have you here.
Thank you.
And you are 10 years old.
Yep.
And how old were you when you started first playing the piano?
Probably like 6 or 7.
So you've been playing 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what kind of progress have you made in those 3 years? A little person told me, a little birdie, as we used to say, that you've done pretty well on those years. How do you feel about it?
I feel like I improved a lot since the start, especially after I joined Miss Anna's piano place.
So your teacher is Anna Uspensky,
Yeah.
And Dr. Anna Uspensky has organized this whole event. She arranged the competition. You played in a competition, one of the Sound Espressivo competitions.
Yeah.
What piece did you play for that?
I played a Kabalevsky and a Tchaikovsky.
Kabalevsky.
Yeah.
Which piece?
Talkatina.
Wow. And which Tchaikovsky piece?
It was a waltz.
The waltz. From, was it from the seasons or just?
It was just like a waltz for children.
A waltz for children, I see. Yeah. And were you nervous when you had to compete? It was all, you did it at home because it was
Yeah.
virtual, but you still must have been a little bit, was it pretty exciting?
I was like excited but also like really nervous because it was my first time at a piano competition.
And look at you, here you are at Carnegie Hall. So you did well. Now, I understand that you like to compose. Or at
Yeah,
least sing while you're playing, or think about singing while you're playing.
Yeah.
Have you actually composed too?
Not really, but like I sometimes like to take pieces from online that are written for like a different instrument and then turn it into piano.
I see. So you'll take a song that you've heard on the internet and play it at the piano and sing with it.
Sometimes.
I see, yeah. Well, maybe you'll, and that's popular music, or
Yeah.
not necessarily classical, but maybe you'll sometime grow up and be a singer, a pianist and a singer, because it could be done, like Michael Feinstein, if you know the name.
No.
Don't know the name, yeah. And what piece are you playing tonight?
Haydn's Concerto in D major.
Really? And so with a piano accompanist?
Orchestra.
Oh, you're doing it with the orchestra? Oh, my goodness. So that's a wonderful piece. Are you playing, what movement are you playing?
Third.
The third movement. Wow. That's a terrific piece. He didn't write many piano concertos, but he did that one, I think. And it's a terrific piece. How long did it take you to get it under your fingers?
About like 3 months.
3 months. Yeah. Is it what sort of tempo do they take on it? Is it a pretty brisk tempo or?
It's moderate.
Moderate tempo, so you can get through it okay. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's how beautifully you phrase it and how you make it sound and getting all the phrasing right. It doesn't really matter what the tempo is at all, as long as you play it with musicality. Yeah. And you're in, what grade are you in?
6th.
And do you think you'll keep at the piano?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. But you have other interests, though. What are some of your other interests?
I do rhythmic gymnastics, ballet, and creative writing.
Oh, that's right. I read that. You're a gymnast.
Yeah.
And I understand you've placed in some competitions. And what kind of tumbling, not tumbling, but what sort of routines do you do?
So in rhythmic gymnastics, it's not like artistic. So we have ball, hoop, clubs, ribbon, floor, and rope. And this year I'm doing ball, hoop, floor, and clubs. And like you do a routine with music, and it has like dance incorporated in it, and like flexibility stuff, and like equipment things as well.
And you practice a lot for that, I'll bet.
Yeah, I practiced more last year though.
Mm-hmm. And how many, is it difficult finding time to practice the gym and the piano?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
I normally practice try to practice piano as much as I can, like every day. And for gymnastics, I just do it on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, sometimes Thursday.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and sometimes those 3 or 4 days a week.
Yeah.
So you're a busy young lady. And, well, I wish you the best in your piano career. Look forward to the concerto tonight. It's one of my favorite concertos, so I'll be listening very closely to that. And maybe someday I'll see you out on the at a gym performing. So thank you very much for coming by.
Thank you.
Good meeting you. Got to get a picture.
Wow, that was an incredible performance. And it's so interesting to hear even 10-year-olds being interviewed. It's not often you get to hear the voice of a 10-year-old expressing all these different interests, from rhythm gymnastics to creative writing and to music, obviously. And she has such a in-depth knowledge of what she likes and what she doesn't like, and she speaks so well. So I hope you really enjoyed that interview with Steve Robinson. I feel like a lot of the time we don't give enough credit to these young kids who are able to express themselves so well. And speaking of these young kids, we're going to bring on stage Dr. Anna Osmansky, who is the teacher of Lucia Tang. Let's bring her on. Hello.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, congratulations on your student playing so lovely and so well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My gosh, this makes me so nervous even just watching the video. I thought I was going to die being nervous for these kids. And, you know, the best part is to watch them grow and enjoy the growth and enjoy the stress and experience and all of that. The worst part is I want to jump in and play instead of it's just so nerve-wracking. But Lucia did a fabulous job on that concert, and she only worked on the piece for 3 months. I'm so proud of that little girl, putting her entire being into preparing and doing this.
Well, you've made her music life already, you know, to play in Carnegie Hall, concerto with orchestra, on one of the biggest stages and the most important stages in the world. You've done that, and so congratulations to you.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
These kids are amazing to work with. You know, they have a character. When she was auditioning for both the concerto and the solo. And then I asked her, Lucia, if you don't make it as a soloist with the orchestra, let's prepare the backup piece, so maybe you'll make it as a soloist. You know what she said? I will play with the orchestra. Okay. Well, the judges kind of have to decide that, and she said, I'll do my best. And she did. So there we go.
It's amazing. And you were there for the actual performance in Carnegie Hall. Tell us about that, and how nervous were you for the real performance?
I already said that. I was nervous as a wreck. But Lucia did a fantastic job, and so did Kate. So did Marcella. I don't know if we have the interviews with them later.
Yeah, we'll have it soon. Yeah. And I think it's such a privilege for them to have a teacher who's not only so caring, but able to organize these sort of events. So kudos to you. All credit goes to you. And
all credit goes to our community. Chris, to everyone, you included, and the guys behind the scenes, and James, and everyone. You know, this is bigger than 1%.
Let's bring James on the stage. Let's bring James on.
Yes.
a
Yes.
question for James.
Oh, you have a question.
I have
Perfect.
a question. Let's bring him on. My question is...
Good luck, James. Chris
Yeah.
has a question to you. I'm going to get nervous.
I'll try.
You never know what's going to happen. I want to ask you about the backstage experience. What was it like to be backstage? Were you nervous for the people? Were you able to hear and sit in the audience? What was it like for you to be in Carnegie and organizing everything?
Oh my gosh. Well, it was amazing. It was chaotic and crazy, but it was amazing backstage. I think at one point we probably had about 40 people sitting in the small room backstage, including the orchestra, getting people shifted around and doing traffic control, bringing them out to the crowd to sit in the balcony, bringing them back in time to warm up and perform. And it was I called it the train station. We just kept the trains running, and sometimes the trains were bigger than others, and there were more passengers than others sometimes. But it was great, and I got to listen from the stage door to all the glorious music. And hear everybody play their absolute best. It was just an experience of a lifetime. Very overwhelming in the best way possible.
I love it. And you were sharing a story before about the contestants. Can you tell us a bit about tell us about Lucia? What happened during the rehearsals and your experience with these amazing young kids?
It's not too often, just like in each town or each studio that like you see like so many people like all together at once, so enthusiastic about what they're doing and just willing to take the raise the bar even. And what Anna was saying about Lucia actually didn't surprise me. I didn't know that, but so Lucia and Kate were both there almost the entire time, and they came in maybe shortly after the rehearsal had started, and they just come in and they look at me and they're like, "Can we watch inside?" And I said, "Well, of course." And I thought, two
How could you
two
say
kids,
no?
they'll stay a few minutes. They stayed there the whole time. They were like so into everything that was happening. I mean, they weren't your typical squirrely kids. And then we were short on space, so they shared a chair, and it was cute.
That is amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's these little stories that really make the whole experience wonderful and a really beautiful memory. So thank you, James, for everything you've done to make all this happen. I know there's a lot of behind the scenes work that doesn't get much credit, especially the schedules and chasing people up and wondering where people are. So thank you for that and making this as smooth and beautiful as possible.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. And with that, we're going to move on to our next contestant, he's a pianist, and his name is Zikai Andy Wang. And during the gala, he performed Concerto Number 12, K414, the Allegro movement by Mozart. And with that, we're going to turn to some of his auditions and some of his video playing, but most importantly, we're going to hear his interview with Steve Robinson. Enjoy.
It's wonderful to have you here at Carnegie Hall. Have you ever been to New York before?
No, this is my first time here.
And where are you from?
I'm from Oakville, Canada.
Really? And your first time in New York?
Mm-hmm.
Have you had a couple of days to look around the city and
Yeah.
what do you
really
think?
Good. I really like this place. There's like everything you want.
Everything you want. That's true. Anything you want, you can get right here, including all kinds of different music.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how old are you?
I'm 9 years old.
And you're a pianist?
Yes.
And how long have you been studying?
I've been studying for almost 3 years. I started when I was 6.
I see. And whose idea was it that you would take piano lessons?
My mom, because she knows I'm a quiet person, and she wanted to find me a good way to express my feelings non-verbally. And I think she's right.
Wow. Well, that was a beautiful thing your mom did. And now, not every kid who is asked to study piano by their mom or their dad likes it. But you did like it.
Yeah.
What did you like about it?
When I first heard the piano, I really liked the sound, and I was 100% sure that I would continue.
That's great. And continue you did. And what kind of, how much, you made some pretty good progress. Did you study, did you practice 5 or 10 minutes a day?
Sorry, each day I practice 1 to 2 hours, depending on my schedule.
1 to 2 hours? Wow.
Yeah, but I stay really focused when I practice, so it's got really high efficiency, and that saves my time.
I see. And what sort of practicing do you do? Do you play the Hannon exercises? Have you learned those?
I do the scales and the churning etudes and that stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting to hear you say that you're an efficient practicer, because that's very, very important. Yeah. And so you get so you practice 2 hours a day, which is a long time for a young man like yourself, but you're getting the most out of it that you can. And then what pieces did you start to play, actual compositions, because you can't play scales all day long?
I also play the 12 variations of Mozart. Now I also play Sinfonia and sonatas by Haydn and sonatinas by Kuhlo. And also now I also practice the variations of Paganini.
Really? Paganini? Difficult composer.
Yeah.
I used to play a Kuhlo piece. I practiced it forever, and I just could never get it right. So I had to move on to another instrument. But I admire you for sticking with that Kuhlo piece.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really liked it, but I just didn't have what you would call the talent, which clearly you have. Now, what piece are you playing tonight?
I'm playing Concerto in A major by Mozart.
Really? The A major concerto. What number is it? You remember what number that is?
Number 12, KV 4 and 4.
484. Yeah.
No, 414.
Right. And are you playing one movement?
Yeah, first movement.
First movement. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. You know, of all of the sets of music in the world, whether it's Wagner operas or Bach, the Mozart piano concertos are my favorite. So I'm really going to be looking forward to your performance.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what is it about Mozart that you like?
I like Mozart's music because it's very clean, it's bright, and it's lively. And another good thing is that he doesn't need so much pedal, and that's a lot of less work.
Yeah. A lot of people who don't really know music say, well, Mozart's easy to play. But it isn't, is it?
It isn't.
Yeah, because it's really exposed. I mean, you have to get everything exactly right. Yeah. I think I heard a tape of you. Did you do a rehearsal the other day?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I saw that. It was really beautiful.
Thank you.
And of course, tonight you'll be playing it for real in front of an audience, and I'm sure it'll inspire you. Have you played in front of audiences much before?
I don't think I have.
Really? So this is your first time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I saw you on that tape the other night, and I know that you're going to be just terrific because you played with real confidence and bravado, and I'm sure you're just going to hit it out of the ballpark tonight.
Thank you so much.
And as you look ahead, I know you're only 9 years old, but do you think you'd like to keep going with your music, or do you have other interests?
I don't really plan for the future, but now I think I'm pretty happy with myself. I think I might continue because it's a good way of expressing my feelings, because when I get to some really hard stuff in the future, I somehow might need to get all the frustration away.
Terrific. So whatever you do, I think you're going to be very successful because you don't seem very shy to me. You seem very confident and you express yourself beautifully, and I'm sure it's going to be a terrific performance tonight. I'll be there, of course, and I'll be listening, and I can't wait to hear you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's not every day you get such an insightful kid, and he's able to be aware that he's introverted, but also that music is the medium in which he's able to express himself, and not only his own emotions, but also a way to channel out his so-called frustration. I really just admire this immensely, and I think what a privilege for us to be able to hear them speak on their love for music and what worked for them and their upbringing. We're so happy that Steve Robinson agreed to interview these contestants and these winners at the Manhattan Club. And you heard just now his little clip of his performance of the Mozart Concerto number 12, Köchel 414, and by Mozart, and his interview with Steve Robinson. This is such a pleasure. If you're joining us now, we are halfway through our part 2 of our story. What happened at the Carnegie Laureate Gala not very long ago, less than a month ago. And this is a really beautiful opportunity to share with you not only their performances but also behind the scenes and the interview with Steve Robinson, which is really rare. A legendary radio broadcaster interviewing the winners who are about to perform at the Laureate Gala. We have many people to thank for that, including Sound Espressivo competition, progressive musicians, the New York Chamber Players, and Giacomo Franci, as well as the Piano rehearsal studios. We have History of Music, iClassical Academy, and the WTP Association for all their hard work putting all this together. It is as well as New Media Production and the Oaks Music Library. Coming up soon, we'll be announcing the winner of the James Adler Audience Award, and look forward to that. That's going to be coming soon. James Adler is a very proud supporter of everything we do, and he's such an incredible person to work with. He previously was a judge and still continues to judge, but also is a fantastic musician and pianist who studied at Curtis Institute. And what more beautiful award can we be giving out for this audience award? So with that, now we're going to move on to our next person. This is a violinist we are about to introduce. Her name is Annabelle Wei. We're going to hear her meeting with the conductor, Giacomo, as well as her interview with Steve Robinson, and we'll finish off with a little clip of her playing. Please enjoy.
Like, if you can do the trill, a little, not that fast. Instead of pia, pia, too much. It's a little bit less fast, and so you will probably gain in clarity. Okay, thank you. you have to measure. So you start to measure 4. So there are 2 of those. Start from the very beginning. Okay, and then continue.
Here at Carnegie Hall, you'll be performing tonight, and you live in Maryland?
No, Delaware.
Oh, Delaware, yes. And you're here to perform what piece tonight?
I'm going to be playing Vivaldi's Four Seasons, but the Winter, for the first and second movement.
I see. Now, I want to back up a little bit because I read in your bio that you won a contest in a competition when you were 9 years old, and now you're, how old are you now?
12.
12?
Yes.
And how old were you when you started playing the violin?
I was about to turn 7.
6 and 7?
Yeah.
Well, if you picked up the violin when you were 6 or 7, how did you happen to be playing in a competition just 2 years later when you're 9? You must have progressed pretty fast.
I would say, like in the beginning, I think I did pick up the instrument pretty quickly, but yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah, and you progressed. And what was it about the violin that made you want to keep practicing? Because I'm sure you practice more than 5 minutes a day.
Yes. I think I liked how there's like different like strings, and then you can just like use your fingers to like press on the notes, and then you have like a bow to just like make sound out of it. And I think I thought it was pretty fun, like how you can make sound out of like a wooden little like toy sort of.
And now the sounds you're making, it's music, and that's the whole point of it. And what is it about the music that you play that attracts you? Because you wouldn't have been practicing so hard unless you liked that music. What is it about the music that you like?
I think I like how there's like the different strings. I think I like how the different strings have different tones almost, and the different classical pieces. I think like you can get very different characters out of the different pieces.
And tonight you said you're doing the Vivaldi?
Yes.
Which movement? The winter movement?
I'm playing Winter, first and second movement.
You are?
Yes.
Yeah. Backed up with an ensemble?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you played the Vivaldi before?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what other pieces are you working on?
Right now, well, more recently, I've been working on the Mendelssohn Concerto.
Mendelssohn?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think you'll perform that someday?
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a wonderful piece.
Yeah, I really like it.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best-known violin concertos in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you like the way it sounds, and you like playing it. Have you tried to play it through at home, just the violin part?
The first movement, yeah.
Yeah. Have you heard other violinists on record play it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any violinists that you find really interesting and inspirational?
I think I like Anne-Sophie Mutter because I think she can like make any piece sound very expressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I also understand that you enjoy composing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And what sort of music are you composing?
Usually just classical, just like I wouldn't say it's like it's very different like than like Mozart or Vivaldi or Mendelssohn, but it's near that sort of genre.
And how do you think up the melodies? Do they just come to your head, or do you pick them out on the violin or the piano?
Yeah, I think usually I'm just like playing around on violin, and then I just start to like pick up a melody, and I just like write it down.
And are your pieces for solo violin, or do you try to write for other instruments?
Usually just violin, because I don't quite understand some of the other instruments.
Well, starting with one instrument is very good. So you can learn all about how one instrument works, and then maybe the other string instruments or the similarity, and then as you progress, maybe you'll learn other instruments, how to write for them.
Yeah.
And you like orchestral music?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite symphonies?
Not quite, but I just like how the orchestra altogether sounds.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to go to many concerts?
Yeah, I've gone to many of the Philadelphia orchestras.
Philadelphia?
Yeah, like just listening to their concerts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best in the whole world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And the sound in the hall is so beautiful, and they'll play everything from Mozart to Beethoven to Mahler, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You a big Mahler fan? A little bit?
Yeah, I've played like one of the symphonies at my during my I played one of the Mahler symphonies with my old orchestra.
The orchestra, wow.
Yeah.
Do you remember which one? Was it number one, or do you remember?
No.
No, okay, yeah.
I just remember it was Mahler.
Yeah, Mahler is really a wonderful composer. And what are your future plans? Do you have other interests besides music?
Well, I don't think I would, I'm not trying to completely drop out of violin. I'm not completely sure yet.
You have a little time.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I wish you the best. I can't wait to hear the Vivaldi tonight. I love Vivaldi.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Vivaldi. He wrote a lot of music. A lot of music.
Yes,
But he also wrote a lot of operas. People don't realize that. He actually wrote 50 operas, and 17 or 18 are still survive. He's a very big opera composer, as well as all the wonderful pieces he wrote for violin and lute, and he was terrific. So I wish you the best tonight. Can't wait to hear you.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Well, that was 12-year-old Annabelle Way, who performed Winter, two movements from the Vivaldi Concerto in F minor. And you heard a little bit of her performance, her meeting with Giacomo Franci, the maestro who conducted the New York Chamber Players, and also an amazing and intimate conversation with Steve Robinson about her past, her growing up, who she enjoys listening to. And it's amazing to get this kind of insight from the musicians themselves. I hope you enjoy that. We also will be having another gala, part 2 of the Laureates Gala in June 2023. And I hope you'll tune in for that. We're going to have another big celebration for these winners of the Carnegie Hall auditions, and everyone who has won gets to perform in Carnegie Hall, and what a privilege. So proud, supported by progressive musicians, the New York Chamber Players, Sound Espressivo competition, and you're watching this on an amazing platform that Virtual Concert Halls is able to utilize. We have an amazing tech directors and a wonderful team who is putting this all together. So I hope you're enjoying the show so far, and there's more to come. Next up, we have Marcela Gonya, who is a pianist, and she'll be performing Zukovsky's piano concerto and the Allegro Vivo movement, and you'll get to hear a little bit of a snippet of the performance, as well as her meeting with Giacomo, as well as another interview with Steve Robinson. So please enjoy, and coming up next, Marcela Gonya.
Yeah.
Oh, should I continue?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, good. I liked a little bit better a little later than the beginning. The beginning was a little bit pushed, but I mean, it was very good. Okay, start again from the very beginning and then keep on going.
Okay.
Marcella, it's great to have you here in Carnegie Hall. You're going to be performing tonight.
Yes.
Are you excited?
I'm excited. I'm nervous, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, what are you playing?
I'm playing the third movement of Sergei Zubkovsky's concerto.
So
Who's concerto?
Sergei Zubkovsky.
Don't know him.
He's like a modern composer, so this is gonna be definitely a modern concerto and like unique. So that'll be fun. But
Yeah. Well, what is the piece? Tell us a little bit about what the piece sounds like and why you picked it.
I picked it because it's definitely like unique, like I said, and very quirky. It has many like loud chords and different like dynamics. It's quiet, and then it changes to loud very loudly, very fast. It goes from quiet to loud like very fast, and it's really fun. It's quirky and unique.
And how did you come across it? Was something maybe your teacher brought to your attention?
So my teacher, her husband's father composed the piece, and she brought it to my attention. And
Wait, your teacher's husband's father,
yeah,
Sergei
Zubkovsky
wrote the
Yes.
piece. Is he Russian?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure, but
Have you met him?
no, I haven't met him.
He's still with us?
Not sure, but
No.
I don't think so.
Right. That's exciting. So you're sort of keeping it in the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Now let's wind up a little bit. You're about 15 years old.
yes,
And you started playing when you were 5.
yes,
Yeah. And you've won some competitions.
yeah.
Well, how did you progress so fast that you can start playing competitions?
When I was 5, I started practicing a lot of piano, and I got into it because my memory was not the best when I was younger. So then my mom heard about instruments and how it can help you with your memory. So I started playing because of that. And I also started playing because in music class they would have keyboards and we would play on them, and it was fun to do that. So then I decided to go like more into it, and then my mom found Miss Anna, and that's when I started practicing a lot more and started getting pieces that were a lot harder, and I started getting pushed more, and that's when I started doing competitions, and yeah, and then it started getting bigger and bigger until now.
I got to back up a little. So your mom thought it would be a good idea to help with your memory.
Yeah, because when you had to play music, you had to memorize the pieces, so. And there's a lot of pages of music, so you had to memorize all those pages and then perform it without the book, and then that helps a lot. So
there you were practicing piano to help your memory, but
yeah,
clearly you went a little bit beyond that.
Yeah.
What about the music became more than just a memory exercise for you?
Like in the last 2 years, I started playing with my school orchestra, and that's when I started. And also, I started playing with another pianist, so it was me and another pianist for the concertos because there's a second part,
Right.
and that was really fun because I had a community of other people who also played instruments, and there was also the social aspect. And also, when I do play music, it's really fun because I like hearing the dynamics, and the history piece is also cool, but the community is pretty awesome part about it.
Yeah. What sort of feelings do you look for in music, and when you're playing? I've often wondered, because I'm not a musician, some of the music is so beautiful. As a listener, you get carried away with it. As a performer, how do you control that so you can get the notes, but at the same time be moved with it?
So for the piece that I'm playing, I've been practicing it for a very long time. So I'm kind of used to the sounds of it, unlike the audience, it's their first time listening to it. So when I'm playing it, I just got to remember to really be dramatic with my movements, like show like all the different dynamics that there are, and like when it's forte, slam the keys, and when it's piano, lighter. And I'm used to it, but I do get drifted away in the dynamics, like still when I'm playing it. So it's still special to me when I'm playing it, but I've still played it many times when I've been practicing it, so I'm really used to the sound of it and stuff.
And what other concertos have you played?
I've also played a Kabelevsky concerto, one of the movements, and a Mozart concerto, a Haydn concerto, and these I always competed with them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those concertos. I'm not exactly sure which movements.
Have you looked at any Beethoven concertos?
No, not yet.
Yeah.
But
You know them?
yes,
Yeah. But you haven't played any yet?
not yet.
Yeah. And so what is your favorite area of music? In other words, what composers are you attracted to most? Is it classical, romantic, or contemporary, or the whole business?
Well, I kind of like contemporary because the piece that I'm playing is definitely a more modern piece because it was composed around 2000 century, I'm pretty sure. So it's pretty recently composed.
That's recent.
So I like contemporary a little bit more, but I do still like playing classical. I've been playing that for my whole life, since 5. So, yeah.
Well, your interest in contemporary music is terrific because there aren't enough musicians who are interested in contemporary music. You better watch out though, because composers might come after you and want you to play their pieces because they need that. Yeah. And what other interests do you have outside of music?
I really like soccer a lot. I'm playing soccer in competitive EC now. It's called EC now, and I really like soccer. I like to bake, but soccer's my main thing besides piano.
You like to bake?
Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter bakes as a hobby.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
As well. In fact, when this is over, I'm going to make you sit through a 1-minute TikTok video she did that got 1.5 million views.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
And she produced it herself, did all the video,
Really?
and did the voiceover. And it's about how she met her husband.
Really?
Yeah, in 1 minute.
That's cool.
So I would play it on this show, but it's probably a little bit too personal, but I'll play it if you have a minute. Can you spare a minute?
Yeah. I'll watch that for sure.
Yeah, because are you on TikTok?
I don't have social media because my parents are a little bit strict when it comes to social media, but I get Instagram next year. But I have heard of TikTok and I've seen TikToks before. Okay. And I've seen baking videos about TikTok on TikTok. So
there's lots of baking videos.
Yeah.
She's done a lot. And she's made money.
Really?
She's registered with them, and she's been doing it about 3 months, and she has made $75. So I told her, keep your day job.
Yeah.
Because she works for Google. She works for Google, and you know they pay better.
Yeah,
than that.
Definitely.
But I'll show it to you. So baking, what kind of baking?
I like making cakes the most because I like decorating them and cutting the layers and baking different layers. I like 3 layers. I always do 3 layers or 4 layers. But I actually did consider doing a YouTube channel called Baking It Right or something like that 2 years ago. And I actually made a couple videos, but then I decided not to do it.
And so what's the future for you? Do you think you'll try to pursue music or just enjoy it and do other things, go into college and maybe not major in music?
Not completely sure yet. Maybe I might want to major in music, possibly, but not exactly sure yet. But I'm doing it for fun right now and enjoying it, but likely going to major in it. We'll see, though. I'm not exactly sure yet.
Right. Well, you have a little ways to go.
Yeah.
What year are you in?
Sophomore year, so 10th grade.
Yeah, so you won't even be thinking about college till next year.
Next year, yeah.
Well, thanks for coming by. I can't wait to hear your performance tonight.
Yeah.
And we're all anxious to hear this wonderful new piece.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Wow, that was Marcela Gonya, a pianist, wonderful pianist, who performed the third movement of Zhukovsky's Piano Concerto in Carnegie Hall with Orchestra. What a privilege she had. And we have a really exciting announcement coming up. We have the James Adler Audience Award. We're going to be announcing that with an amazing producer of this amazing program, Anna Ospinskaya, as well as head of the Progressive Musicians, James Welch. We hope you are enjoying this program. If you're joining us now, we are producing and showing you the amazing interviews that were done by Steve Robinson and each of the winners who performed in Carnegie Hall, the Laureate Gala, very, very recently. And this is an opportunity for you as an audience to understand and get to know the musicians even better. And I hope it doesn't sway the Audience Favorites Award at all, but this is a way for musicians to be more human on camera, on stage, so you get to know them. And Steve Robinson is such a great interviewer, asking great questions, not too personal, but just enough so you understand where they're coming from. And it enriches the whole experience for you as an audience, and you get to hear amazing music and meet amazing musicians who are very, very young, but they're on the cusp of something great to come. And speaking of something great, we have James Welch from the Progressive Musicians we can bring on stage. Now, welcome back, James. It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for organizing everything backstage. We talked about the process behind it, and now I want to ask you a little bit about Progressive Musicians and the organization that you're the genius and the mind and the head behind. I want you to tell us a little bit about it, how it formed, and what your dreams are for this organization, and what's coming up next.
Sure. Well, it's really a not too long of a story. But when my friends and I were near the end of our competing days, we were talking about just how it's so much work to learn all the music, but then so much money to just go all over the world and compete. Maybe play for 10 minutes if we're lucky, and then that's it. And and we always ask ourselves, well, what's more depressing, that we didn't place or that we just spent $5,000 to come here and play for 10 minutes? And it was just like, how can we eliminate that? And we thought, well, let's, there's some online competitions, but let's see if we can go online and give everybody a little bit more than just their 5 or 10 minutes of spotlight. Let's give them feedback. Let's give them chances to make improvements. And we don't have to. We were with the idea that we didn't have to have the best international superstars, but that we could help them get to a higher level through providing every educational tool that we could think of online. So we started with that idea where they get a judge's comment, and then they come back a week or two later and play again for the real judgment. Yeah, and the real judgment. And part of that improvement was factored into the scoring, and then we would select musicians to play at Carnegie Hall. The fun fact of this is, which I don't think I've ever said publicly before, is we worked all summer of 2019 for this, and around February of 2020, we're like, all right, the website's ready, the contracts have been signed, let's launch it. So we hit launch on the website. It goes live maybe 2 weeks later. COVID. And my business partner at the time was like, well, what do we do? What are we going to do? I'm like, nothing. We're all set. We're online. We're just going to have to delay the winners recital a little bit. But and we just took one sigh of relief and then put up a message, and people seemed to be flocking to us. I call it a happy accident. I mean, I don't want to associate COVID with anything happy, but I mean, it was weird how that worked out. And since then we've been doing different variations of that format online. And finally, we got to Carnegie for the first time in February of 2022, which was our first recital where people from over the years at that point just came in and played their hearts out in Recital Hall. And it was so fun, and the feedback was just overwhelming to the point where we knew that we definitely had to do this again. And at that point,
Amazing.
yeah, at that point.
So can you? Yeah, go on.
ahead.
Sorry, go on.
Oh no. Well, I was gonna say at that point, I had already formed a relationship with Anna and Sound Espressivo, and we were talking. Well, what if we did one of these together? And so we did.
Brilliant.
And we're gonna be doing it again in June, and many
yeah.
others, and it's it's just really been a lot of fun and almost a dream come true for a lot of people. I mean, I'm not in this to promote myself so much, but I mean, it's just like we do this and we hear wonderful music, we promote other musicians, we help them get to the next level, and you know, at the end of the day, it's just, you know, it's just the funnest thing in the world.
So for people who are watching, and tell us a bit about how they can support progressive musicians and Sound Espressivo. What can people do apart from, you know, applying for the competitions and audition rounds? How can we support this amazing initiative that you're doing?
Well, I mean, support. I mean, yeah, we always take donations, but I mean, as far as money goes, I mean, that's really the last support thing that I would probably ask for at this point. But one of the first things that I would take if someone offered it, of course, you know, I mean, nobody turns down money. But I
hope not.
Yeah, I mean, no. But I mean, you know, just, you know, spread the word about what we do, you know, from studio to studio, teacher to teacher, and we're always looking for new adventures and new ideas, and we're also looking to do more localized programming of recitals. You know, this whole idea of being international is great, but you need to have a few other steps in that process to work up to international competition. So that's one of our next ventures, is hopefully providing opportunities for local communities or just within a state.
Excellent.
And
that sounds really
still
good.
doing online and finding a venue, and then encouraging people to keep moving forward.
Absolutely. No, I really love what you're doing. Thank you, James. Thank you for all your hard work, and thank you for coming to talk to us about what you're doing. Really appreciate you putting all this effort in to make musicians' dreams come true. And if you want to support us, check us out, Sound Espressivo Competition, Progressive Musicians, virtualconcerthalls.com. We are on social media. We are everywhere that you can find us on the internet, because we want to come to you and we want to broadcast programs that are accessible to you. And if you're a student or music teacher, make sure you check us out, because there are a lot of amazing events to come. Now, our last contestant that we're going to show you tonight is very special. Her name is Teresa Alais. She's going to be playing the castanets. She flew all the way from Spain to perform for us, and she's world famous. She's an incredible musician. During the Carnegie Hall Laureate Gala, she performed 2 Hungarian dances, number 4 and number 5 by Brahms, with orchestra, with the New York Chamber Players, conducted by Maestro Giacomo Franci. And here we have some clips of her playing, as well as her meetings with orchestra, and of course, her interview with Steve Robinson. Please enjoy.
Pam pam pa 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 So, poco ritenuto means poco, like not much, but usually, traditionally, is play ritenuto, not poco, like pam pam pa pa, and I don't think Brahms meant that. So, if you agree with me, I would do it poco, like tan tan ta, a little bit more.
Yes. Okay.
So I don't know if you can adapt to that. If you can't, then we'll do it what everybody does.
Yes, I suppose I can. I have followed. I don't know if you want to hear to listen the.
I just want to know from you. See.
The bass I had for, well, it was the same that in the video, okay, more or less.
Yeah,
no?
yeah. So it's the same in the video. I would have to do ritenuto like usually. Pa 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 pa.
So I don't know exactly.
So
yes.
That you probably are used to that. I don't know. Yeah.
Teresa and Rodrigo, welcome to Carnegie Hall and the Wild Recital Hall. And we're doing an interview about your performance tonight, Teresa, which is a solo, a concerto you're playing on castanets. Tell us a little bit about how you developed the skill and the virtuosity on these instruments.
Well, I used to dance in the past, so with Spanish dancing, we usually learn how to play castanets, but for dancing is a very simple way of playing. But afterwards, I met Maestro José Dudaeta, who was a very good castanet soloist, and it was in 25. So almost 20 years ago, I am focused professionally in castanets as a solo instrument, and then I developed my own method of teaching this instrument, and I created an online school and the International Castanet Festival, and a competition of castanets for this year, so many things about castanets.
You created the competition? And where is that held?
It's going to be held this in February. Now we have the semifinals, and we will have the finals in February.
And where is the competition? Is it online or?
It was online for the first tiers, and the final will be during the 9th International Festival in Madrid.
In Madrid.
Yes, in February next year.
Yeah, and you also arrange pieces for the castanets?
Yes.
What kind of pieces do you arrange?
Well, I like to do all kind of different styles. Also classical music, which is not so typical, for castanets, but I usually write the scores for the arrangements, and both for classical music or Spanish music or popular music. From all countries, even jazz and flamenco and everything.
Now I want to talk a bit about the piece you're playing tonight, but first, Rodrigo, you are with the consulate in New York City?
Yeah, that's right.
And what is your position there?
Well, we do as much as we can to promote Spanish culture in New York, all of the genres, all of the arts, and in this case, music and live music.
Yeah. Have you ever worked with a castanet soloist before?
No, this isn't my first time. I think it's very unique. It's definitely, as you were saying, a rare solo instrument.
Right. Were you here last night? Did you see any of the rehearsal?
I wasn't lucky enough to be here last night, but I will today.
Right. So tell us a bit about the piece you're playing tonight.
Yes, I'm going to play the Hungarian dances, number 4 and 5.
By
Brahms.
Brahms, okay.
Yes, and well, these are two pieces I like very much, and they are full of contrast, so it gives me the opportunity to express a lot of emotions, different emotions, and well, I think it would be nice to hear.
Do you, when you're transcribing the Brahms Hungarian dances, which are written for piano originally or for orchestra? The original composition?
I used to be based on the original scores.
For orchestra?
For orchestra,
yep.
Yeah.
And so when you write the castanet part, is it your own rhythms that you're adding to it, or?
Yes.
Yes.
I add some arrangement, and I do a different line of melody, sometimes following the principal melody, and sometimes accompanying the back instruments. Or well, I play with the rhythms and also with the colors of sound. Because castanets, it seems to be a very simple instrument, but you can, with only, for example, what we call a toque, un toque, a simple note, imagine, it can sound in a very different kinds of sounds, colors of sound. No? It depends on the position you play, or the distance of hands from the body. So it changes the quality of sound. So we play with rhythms and also with that to enlarge the richness.
Right. And do you write your part out?
Yes.
So it's written out, and you're playing from a written out. You've memorized it, because I noticed you weren't looking at any music, but it's something that's written out and composed.
Yes, we write the scores as with the normal solfege, solfa. No, with its rhythm, with normal notes.
Right, notation.
But notation, yes, but it is only in a bigramma instead of a pentagramma. It's only bigramma, because we write in the first line the things for the right hand, and in the low line for the left. In the middle, we write the silence and the posticeos, which are the crushing of castanets when they
Really? So it's three lines. The left hand.
The line, one line, another line, and in the middle, in the space, empty space, we write the silence and the crushing of castanets.
And the bottom line is left hand, top line is right hand. Very exciting, very interesting. Yeah. What other pieces do you perform besides the Brahms? I'm sure many.
Well, I have pieces of Vivaldi, Mozart, Beethoven, Haydn, Boccherini, well, many. And then typical classical Spanish, like Albéniz. Well, I have also some of Carmen from the opera. Almost all the zarzuelas. You know.
Is there any repertoire for solo, unaccompanied castanets? Just one performer, no instruments.
Well, sometimes I do
solos.
A solo, but not all the concert, of course, because it's going to be very boring. But sometimes in a concert, just a little piece or. Yes,
right.
Sometimes I have done that.
Yeah. Well, I'm very eager to see the performance. I just saw a little bit of it last night on tape, and it was a rehearsal, so this will be very different. And we all look forward to seeing you at the concert.
And likewise,
Yeah.
very keen as well.
It starts soon. It's at 8. So
Yes, that's it.
we have to get ready. But thank you very much for coming by. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I'm very eager to hear the piece.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wonderful. That was Teresa Lies on castanets performing a little bit of the Brahms 4th and 5th Hungarian dance. And there was a snippet of a rehearsal. And there's a reason it is called rehearsal. There's a lot of things to work on and to put together. And with orchestra, we have Giacomo Franci as the maestro and conductor behind the New York Chamber Players. We are really privileged to have this and her amazing little snippet of an interview with Steve Robinson. We are really just floored by the fact that she came from Spain all the way. She's beside her. We had the consulate of Spain in New York City alongside, and it's just a combination of many different cultures put together and performing in one of the biggest stages and the most important stages in the world. Now, we have one final thing to announce. Adler Audience Award. We didn't get a chance to announce that earlier, and because of this part 2 of our story, the Carnegie Laureate Gala, we get to announce this amazing award. And here to announce it is one of the co-founders of Sound Espressivo competition, Anna Osmanskaya, and the director behind Progressive Musicians, James Welch. Please welcome them onto the virtual stage. Welcome back.
Thank you,
both.
Thank you so much.
How's everything going? Are you enjoying the interviews and everything?
Incredible interviews. I want to say many thanks to Steve Robinson for conducting those interviews. These are great questions.
Real pro. He's amazing.
Oh my gosh, no wonder that all over the world people watch his programs and listen to his radio productions, and he put together incredible programs about classical music and musicians, and he just brings so much interesting stories from behind the music that people play and their personal stories. It's wonderful too. I'm glued to those interviews. James, it's that time everyone were eagerly waiting for the announcement of the James Adler audience favorite award.
So I'm sure you've sorted it out who's going to announce it, and so I'm going to let you decide who announces it. This is a great award, and we thank you, James Adler. Can you, Dr. Anna, could you tell us a bit about James Adler and our relationship with him, how this award came about?
Absolutely. So that's exactly what I wanted to just introduce a little bit. James Adler is a fabulous pianist, graduate of Curtis Institute, and he's currently in New York and performing, recording, and he's also a composer. So the organization, Adler Oaks Library, is sponsoring this award. And James, well, I'll let him speak in his own words, but I know the first time we talked with him about possibly introducing this kind of award, James was very excited to really encourage musicians to develop and nurture their following and their community of supporters, because classical music can be appreciated by many, and people sometimes feel a little bit apprehensive looking at those glorious musicians on 6-foot tall stages, but musicians are very accessible, and we need that human connection with people. So James was very excited, and he told me for him, community of supporters and audience and people who love music and love his playing, love his compositions, was one of the most nurturing and exciting and things of being a musician. So he and the Adler Oaks Library are sponsoring a $250 award. This is the second time they're offering this award. First time was last year during Sound Espressivo competition, and this year they'll be awarding 2 of those awards. One today will be naming the winner of this award, and there will be another award given out on to the one of the laureates at June 20th Laureate Gala at Carnegie Hall.
Wonderful.
So and we have the address directly from James. I believe he's going to say who won it, and let me just give you a little background. So we of course spread the word and conducted the poll, and people voted and sent us their votes. We had a lot of votes. Then we had to count them and make sure that every one of those votes is properly counted and sorted out, and then we came up with the winner. So it took a while. I know everybody were eagerly waiting. I guess we'll be soon moving on to actually announcing the winner. James, you had something to add to that?
No, I think you got it all. I'm just too excited. I want to know who won.
Well, I already do know. So I have
no more teasing. Let's get it going.
Tell me.
Yeah.
Tell everyone.
I have the other biggest problem. People kept asking me, "Well, just tell me secretly, please." And I have I have that urge to tell people, but I kept my mouth zipped.
I'll tell you.
Okay, well let's
Hello,
hear from
I'm
James Adler, and then
Yamaha concert artist and president of the Adler Oaks Music Library, sponsor of the James Adler Audience Favorite Award. On behalf of virtual concert halls, progressive musicians, and our advisory boards and members, I want to thank all those who participated and voted. The total number of fully eligible votes worldwide was 1,118. Yay! We're glad to have had your collective voices heard. The winner of the James Adler Audience Favorite Award is, drumroll please, Antia Diaz, age 16, from Goa, India. Congratulations, Antia. And thank you all for participating in voting. Your vote does count. Happy holidays, everyone.
Yay!
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Antia, congratulations. I hope she's watching now, and everybody else.
Congratulations.
Wow, that's excellent. Yeah.
Drum!
Yeah, that's fantastic. Congratulations, Antia. I hope the trip was worth it. And now you not only have have had the opportunity to play in Carnegie Hall, but also to have won the James Adler Audience Favorite Award. Congratulations. And we also have you to thank, Dr. Anna and James Welch, for putting all of this together and making it so fun for everybody.
Thank you, Chris. It was
Chris.
an enormous amount of fun for me.
All right, yeah. So what's next? Dr. Anna, tell us a little bit about what's next. You hinted about the second Laureate Gala. Can you tell us a little bit about it and what we can expect?
We can expect more fabulous music, great artists, more wonderful interviews on June 20th. I will be soon announcing the program and who is going to be on that glorious gala concert at the Carnegie Hall on June 20th. And we have more concerts. We're organizing orchestra concerts with various orchestras and lots of other plans. And of course, going to be reaching out to the audience through our wonderful programs like this one. And I want to thank Chris for your great hosting. Bravo.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Wonderful.
Thank you all for everything. Yeah, this has
You're
been a
so
real
fun
pleasure.
and entertaining.
Oh, that's
a great host.
Thank you.
And I also
yeah, go on.
thank our magicians behind the scene, the musicians who are producers, sound and video engineers, and directors of these shows. Thank you very, very much. Our mysteriously unseen magic hands behind Fran Rusinovich, our technical director and director of this show, and Fyodor Uspensky, our artistic director and the director of this show. And also many thanks to everyone else on Virtual Concert Hall's team who may not be in the midst of the action right now, but working hard and preparing the systems, the methods and the ways of producing those live shows, and the visuals and the graphics and scripts, and there's a lot which goes into preparation. Thank you everyone who you see on this screen. My deepest bow to you. You're professional musicians. You're maintaining performing, teaching, and other musical careers, and you are also our magic vehicle to help musicians reach out farther and wider beyond the limitations of the brick and mortar concert halls. We love the concert halls, but we love this connection too.
Yeah, thank you so much to the team behind Virtual Concert Halls. It's always a pleasure working with you. And a big hand to you, James, making it all happen behind the scenes, especially backstage in the real life events. And with that, we're going to say a goodbye. And also a big thanks to all our judges again, Dr. Benjamin Hansen, choir director. We also want to thank Daniel Ihaz, Emil Shunovsky, Elizabeth Mann, Pierre Baudry, Paul Coleman, James Welch, and of course Maestro Giacomo Franci. We want to thank Steve Robinson and his team for making such beautifully shot interviews and sending it to us. We want to thank, of course, Dr. Anna Ospenskaya, Igor Subkovsky, John Karbov of the Karbov Cello School, Piano Rehearsal Hall, Rehearsal Studios. We want to thank our producers, Fyodor Ospensky and Frane Rizinovich, and everybody, all of you. Reach out to us if you want to help us and support us. We do need your help to make these programs work. And it's not just about financial support, but also your physical support. We have so many events lined up, and it's important that you not only support us because we're supporting musicians, but you are there to, as an audience, to support musicians who may need that extra platform to get their voices heard, may need that extra support from the judges or from the audience to feel a bit more confident about expressing themselves through music. A lot of musicians are generally sometimes introverted and have no means to express themselves apart from using art and music. And so this is a channel and a platform for them to showcase what they have to say to the world. And to give them the confidence of that, we are offering opportunities for them to actually perform. So if you want to support us, check out our websites. We have Sound Espressivo Competition. We have virtualconcerthalls.com. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube. We are on LinkedIn. Reach out to us because it would be a pleasure for you, for us to have you as our supporter. And with that, we'll catch you very soon. Have a very good evening wherever you're at, and take care. See you soon.